Over the course of my winter break, I had the privilege and the opportunity to travel to Rio de Janeiro to not only receive credits for some classes I took while I was there, but to also fully immerse myself in the Brazilian culture. As someone who enjoys traveling to foreign countries and who has traveled to multiple countries around the world, I became fully aware of the multiple crime incidents that could occur in not only Brazil, but simply any foreign country in the world. Before I traveled to Brazil, I remembered hearing multiple remarks from close friends and family members regarding how I needed to protect myself in Rio. I also remembered reading multiple articles before the trip that addressed tourists who were robbed and held at gunpoint for their valuables. One article that specifically caught my attention revealed how dozens of tourists were held at gunpoint in a mass robbery during their hiking expedition towards the famous Christ the Redeemer statue in Rio, which I actually visited when I was there. 3 individuals, armed with knives and a gun, set up an ambush as the tourists walked up to the monument, and while no one was hurt, these tourists were robbed by a number of items including cell phones, cash, and credit cards. After learning about similar stories online and knowing that Brazil is notorious for crimes affecting tourists, I felt extremely worried about my safety and well-being even before I embarked on the trip. I started to wonder, what would I do if I were a crime victim or in a similar situation? How about street theft, which is not only common in Brazil, but can occur anywhere else at any moment in time? In order to better prepare myself for my study abroad trip, I took into account Brazil's high crime rate and developed strategies that I could use if I were to ever be a victim of crime. As I always assumed the worst case scenario in every situation, I purposely do not bring much cash when traveling to any foreign country, especially to Brazil. Alternatively, I withdraw only from my checking account via my debit card. Prior to my Brazil departure, I transferred most of my money via online banking out of my checking account that is linked to my debit card so that there were only limited funds left in this account. I found this method extremely helpful and relevant because I knew that in case my debit card was breached while I was in Brazil, all the money that I would lose would just be that limited amount I kept in the checking account. If I ever needed additional money from my checking account, I could simply use any banking app. I use the Chase QuickPay app, but there are other apps you can use, such as the Western Union app and the Bank of America app that also work just as well, so I could transfer more money from my other accounts into the account that was linked to my debit card. I would simply go to the app, click the Pay and Transfer menu, type in how much money I would like to have transferred over, accept the terms and agreements, and choose the checking account I would want to have the money transferred over to. I felt extremely lucky and grateful I used this strategy because there was, in fact, one robbery incident that involved one of the students in my group during my stay in Rio. On the night of New Year's Eve, my study abroad group spent the last 30 minutes of 2019 on Copacabana Beach waiting for the fireworks and to celebrate the start of 2020. This happened to be one of the most exciting and yet eventful nights during my time in Brazil. While over 2 million people were celebrating the beginning of the New Year's in the same location, a fellow student from my group was pickpocketed and ended up losing all the cash and IDs he had been carrying with him in his wallet. While he was highly unlikely to ever get his IDs back, I do believe he would have been much better off if he were to have done what I did by utilizing a banking app to fund his debit card and carrying just a very limited amount of cash with him. In addition to the Chase QuickPay app I utilize for my debit card, I also utilize LifeLock for Norton 360, which is an app on my phone that I use for protection from identity theft. LifeLock for Norton 360 is especially useful during overseas travel because it monitors and protects my phone from cybercriminals and dark webs. Even if the student happened to be carrying credit and debit cards with him, I believe LifeLock for Norton 360 could have come in handy because with the touch of a button, you can instantly put a freeze on your credit cards that have been stolen so the robber is unable to utilize any of these tools. The last piece of technology I find useful when traveling is VPN technology via Norton 360 to protect my passwords, online activity, and all sensitive information in public Wi-Fi spots, such as the airports, hotels, and restaurants. I learned about this technology, sadly, from my first study abroad experience in Prague, where my credit card was hacked. In fact, I did not know much about the hack until I returned home to Michigan. I was using my credit card in a gas station and my card was declined. When I called the credit card company, I was told that some suspicious changes were made in Prague and thus led to the temporary suspension of my card. From this experience, I learned and highly recommend to others to first inform the credit card company about your travel dates and destinations before the trip. That way, the credit card company can monitor the activities, especially if the card is breached or used outside the reported locations. With the help of these various technologies, I felt confident about my cybersecurity whenever I had to access public Wi Fi. Even in the scenario when my identity or cybersecurity was breached, I would be notified immediately. If needed, I can temporarily suspend my checking account using the Chase Quick Pay app on my phone or from a computer. Furthermore, LifeLock for Norton 360 had the option of turning public Wi-Fi into a personal hotspot to help keep my personal information safe and my online activities private. I would also be able to receive alerts on my phone if there were any suspicious activity on my credit cards, and the app would subsequently work to resolve this issue. In summary, the use of these apps have helped me gain a wealth of knowledge on how to protect myself wherever my destination may be, and especially on my most recent study abroad trip to Rio de Janeiro. Especially during my study abroad experiences, I recommend specific actions to keep my fellow students safe. These actions include the use of online banking, debit cards, and apps such as Norton Antivirus Software, Norton VPN Protection, and Norton LifeLock app. These technologies not only make travel easy, but they also provide a safe, efficient environment for students and staff during their study abroad experiences. The utilizations of these types of technologies, specifically while traveling, have impacted my life profoundly, and I wish every student can gain a positive study abroad experience like the one I had in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. Thank you.